Manchester United eyeing up 4 key positions this coming transfer window. Fabrizio Romano gives us an update on João Neves to Manchester United, and 2 key centre-backs go out injured. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on the show this morning. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if this is your first time watching, and let's get straight on into it. Let's start off with some positivity, as I always like to do on this channel. I know there's so much doom and gloom around Man United at the moment, so I'm going to try and start the show positively. So let's do that. So the story that I have for you first is that apparently Varane is okay. Obviously, he went off injured against Brentford on the weekend. There was a serious injury scare, and it was concerning. It is, because we'll talk about the injuries in a minute, but Rafael Varane has been probably our best centre-back this season. Obviously, Martinez has been injured all season. Maguire is Maguire. He's not really that good, is he? Lindelof, I don't think is that good. Johnny Evans is probably our second best centre-back at the moment. So if we'd have lost Varane against Brentford, I think we'd have been in big trouble. But the news this morning is that apparently Varane is okay, and hopefully he will be available for the game against Chelsea tomorrow, and obviously the game against Liverpool on Sunday. So that's the positive story for you. Really happy about that, because this will feed nicely into the next part of the show, which is not so positive. So I assume some of you would have seen this story already, but I'm gonna roll with it anyway. The headline this morning is that Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof are apparently going to be out for a minimum of 4 weeks. Pretty much they're out for the rest of the season. They might be available for the FA Cup final, maybe, if we even get there. But both of them have pulled out from the first team with what are being described as muscular injury for Lisandro Martinez and a hamstring injury for Victor Lindelof. Now, I said this on the show a couple of months ago, and people were quite quick to ridicule me. Lisandro Martinez has had 3 different injuries this season. I love Lisandro Martinez. He is genuinely one of probably only 3 players at Man United that I actually like, alongside Garnacho, Højlund and Kobbie Mainoo. Like, those 4 players are pretty much the only players that I have an actual strong attachment to. But this season has not been good for him, has it? He's been injured for what feels like a lifetime. He comes back on against Brentford. He plays for 20 minutes. He's injured. He played against, was it West Ham last season? He played against West Ham last season. Sorry, not last season. A couple of months ago, he played against West Ham. Goes off injured. And it's starting to get really concerning. And do we need to start having the conversation now where maybe Lisandro Martinez is injury prone? Like, to have 3 different injuries and to miss a whole season's worth of football it's pretty difficult to shy away from that. I love Lisandro Martinez. I'm absolutely gutted about this news because he's only just effectively come back from a 10-week injury spell. So, yeah, really disappointed about this. I mean, Lindelof, I don't know. I think Lindelof should be sold in the summer. So, obviously, it's disappointing that Lindelof's injured as well. It's disappointing that we've lost another player through injury. But I don't think Lindelof becoming injured is going to mean we can't achieve what we need to achieve in the final games of the season. I don't think Lindelof's very good, personally. And I just as happily see either Johnny Evans or Maguire start ahead of him. So, obviously, it's disappointing that a player's injured, and I'd never wish harm on a player, but seeing Victor Lindelof become injured didn't have the same impact as when I saw Martinez is injured. But what we do know is that both of these players have been announced as injured at the same time. It's another massive injury blow. And I wanted to bring this into the show, and I wanted to get you guys' opinions, because I saw a stat last night and it completely blew my mind. So Manchester United have had 53 different injuries this season amongst their squad. 53. It's the most in the whole Premier League. I mean, that's just absolutely mad, isn't it? 53 different injuries. I mean, there's some people in the fan base saying this is on Erik ten Hag. He's training the players too hard. I don't think you can 100% blame that on Erik ten Hag. We know that Jurgen Klopp is aggressive in the way that he does his training and aggressive in the way that he plays. We know that Pep Guardiola is the same, but arguably Pep Guardiola dominates the ball more, which means the players have to run around less. Now, were we talking about this last season when we were finishing 3rd and getting a League Cup trophy? No, nobody was talking about the players working too hard. If anything, all the fans were saying, I'm so happy that Erik ten Hag's making them run. I'm so happy that he's, making them actually work hard. And I think what's actually happened here is we've got a bunch of players who over the last kind of 5 or 6 years under Ollie, under Ragnick, they were effectively just doing whatever they wanted. Ollie would just say, go out there and just, express yourself. And they weren't having to work hard. They weren't having to work as hard as what Erik ten Hag is expecting. And if you think about it on a very basic level, of course that's going to be a shock to your body. If you go from a manager like Ollie playing park the bus football to a manager who's expecting you to press, and it's obviously going to be a shock to your body. And I think at part, it might be down to how Erik ten Hag trains them, but I just think that really it just screams out the same point to me that we need different players. We need players that suit an Erik ten Hag style team. And at the moment, we don't have those players. We have a mixture of players from 3 or 4 different managers. You know, we've got some players here who were here when Louis van Gaal was here. We've got players from when Jose Mourinho was here. You know, if you look at the team that started against Brentford on the weekend, like that whole team, it's crazy. It honestly is absolutely crazy. Obviously, Onana was a Erik ten Hag signing, but you go through the rest of it. Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Lindelof, Dalot, they've all been here for years. McTominay's obviously come from the academy, and Kobe Mainoo's come from the academy. Garnacho's come from the academy. Bruno Fernandes was here. Rashford was here. So if you look at a team of 11 players, right, that were available on the weekend, only 2 of those were Erik ten Hag signings. Now, I know people will say, well, you know, you had Antony on the bench, you had Mason Mount on the bench, you had Casemiro on the bench. He does have signings on the bench, and it does just confuse me a little bit why Erik ten Hag isn't playing his players. I don't know. It's strange. I can't get my head around it. You know, why wasn't Casemiro playing on the weekend instead of McTominay? Why wasn't Mason Mount playing? I know he came on, you know, at the very end of the game, but like, you've signed these players, you've spent all the money on these players. You know, what was Casemiro? 60 million. Mason Mount was 50 odd million. Antony, 100 million. You've got all of these players that you've spent all of this crazy amount of money on, and they're not playing. So I don't know. It's a difficult one to get my head around. Obviously, we weren't this bad with injuries last season, so I don't think you can 100% blame Erik ten Hag. It's not like this is the second year in a row where we've had all of these injuries. This year has been particularly bad. And it is a worry. It really, really is. And I think we do now have to start having some question marks around Lisandro Martinez. I think he's our best centre-back. I love him. I think he'd get into most teams in the Premier League. But to miss effectively 12 months now with injuries, like, you do then start to have that conversation. Like, I'm just having a look. So this season alone, right? He missed 12 games, 22 games, and then 9 games. That's what, 34... He's missed about 40 games this season, roughly, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. And then he literally comes back, and now he's injured again and will be out for the rest of the season. I don't know. Was it a bad idea letting him go to the Argentinian national team? Like, there's all these questions, and I don't know the answer. You know, I'm not behind the scenes at Manchester United, so I'm just trying to look at it from an outside perspective. But all I can say is that Lisandro Martinez is a quality player, and it's really disappointing that we've missed him. But anyway, let's move on from that. Let me know in the comment section, who do you think is at fault for this? Do you think it's the players not being able to meet Erik ten Hag's demands? Do you think Erik ten Hag's asking too much of them? Let me know what you think below. I just think that my stance is that if we didn't have this problem last year, why is it happening this year? Like, what's happened? But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Moving over to some more transfer topical related news. So the headline this morning is that apparently Man United are going to target 4 key positions this coming transfer window. And I'm going to reveal what those positions are now. So centre-back, centre-forward, central midfielder, and a right back. I agree with all of those. I think those are the 4 kind of essential positions we need. Obviously, people will say, what about a left back? Diogo Dalot can play at left back. Obviously, Alvaro Fernandez has not done particularly well at Benfica, so he'll end up coming back. You've also got Brandon Williams, again, who I don't think should be here, but will come back in the summer. You've got Luke Shaw, you've got Malacia, and you've also got, obviously, Dalot, who can play there. So we have got about 5 or 6 different players who can play at left back at this moment in time. Lindelof's even played there a bit as well, hasn't he? Whereas if you look at the right back position, it is literally just Wan-Bissaka and Dalot. Wan-Bissaka looks like he will be leaving the club this summer. In relation to the right back, the most likely option as it stands today is looking like Jeremy Frimpong. He's got a release clause of around £35 million. I think he'd be an incredible addition to the team. Now, I know he plays as more of a right wing back for Bayern Leverkusen, which is obviously a different style to what we play. So he is more of like a right winger. You know, he's very far up the pitch. He's very attacking. He's got incredible goals and assist stats this season at Bayern Leverkusen. So would that then mean that Erik ten Hag will have to adjust his style? Maybe. And I'd be open to it. I'd like the idea of having wing backs because we've not been getting enough goals. We've not been attacking enough. And I think that, you know, if you have that massive overload where you've got somebody like Frimpong running down the wing, and then you've got, say, Dalot on the left as the left wing back, or Luke Shaw, I think that could be really, really effective. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. Central midfielder, the most likely name at the moment, the name that we're linked to heavily, is Joao Neves, who we'll be talking about in a minute. Fabrizio Romano has come out in the last 24 hours and said the following. He says, Joao Neves is one of the key players Manchester United are following. United will follow him closely. We're waiting to know how much they will invest in him at the end of the season. So he's available for around 100 million euros, which is obviously a crazy amount of money for a 19-year-old, but if Man United develop him correctly, he will be one of the best midfielders in world football, in my opinion. You know, up there on the level of someone like Jude Bellingham. Like, he does have the ceiling to become that type of player. Whether it will happen or not, that's completely down to Manchester United. It's down to, you know, how they develop him. But when you see that Real Madrid paid Dortmund around over 100 million euros for Jude Bellingham, I think it was 103 million euros. You can see where this 100 million euros release clause has come from, and you can see why it's not completely unrealistic. Now, I know that Jude Bellingham is slightly further, or maybe a lot further ahead in his development versus Joao Neves, but I think, you know, those are two of those players in that midfield position that are being touted as being, you know, the best midfielders for the next kind of 5 to 10 years. So I like the idea of signing Joao Neves. I just think that spending 100 million euros on one player when Man United are in serious financial difficulties is a problem for me. And I think, it, you know, unless we can sell loads of players and raise loads of money, I don't think Joao Neves is the most sensible option. I'd even say someone like Onana from Everton, you know, for maybe 50 million is probably more realistic. But I think Joao Neves is a better player. It's just, you know, how far can the money go? Moving over to centre forward, I'd probably be looking at someone like Santiago Jimenez from Feyenoord, to be honest. I think he's a good player, available for around 30 to 40 million pounds with a release clause. Done very, very well in the Dutch league this season. I would probably go for someone like that, because obviously the other names are like Ivan Toney, that's going to cost you 80 to 100 million. Victor Osimhen's going to be, 150 million. I think it's all maybe a little bit unrealistic money, the same as Joao Neves, and we need to be more clever in the way we spend this summer. Centre-back, I'd probably go with Todibo or Brathwaite. I think those are the two most likely options at this stage. Obviously, if Everton get relegated, which I think is probably unlikely, they will have to sell players. But, you know, Everton are always a club that will sell players if they have to. I'm just having a look now. Everton are 4 points above the relegation zone at the moment. I would be very surprised if Everton got relegated, but you never know in football, do you? So those are the 4 key positions. I want you guys to let me know in the comment section who you would like to see join Manchester United this summer. 4 key positions: a centre-back, centre-forward, central midfielder, and a right-back. Let me know the names you have below. Moving on to the next story, a little bit of contractual news for you this morning. I know this isn't the most exciting, but about Omari Forson. Apparently Man United are still trying to sign a new contract for Omari Forson. His deal ends in the summer. I'll be honest, I haven't really seen that much of this player, and when I have seen of him, like, I think he looks all right. I don't, you know, he's not world class, I don't think, but you obviously, it's a squad game, isn't it? It's a team game, and I think, you know, if Manchester United think Omari Forson could be a good squad player, 19 years of age, then yeah, great, go and sign him on a new contract. But from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, apparently he's reluctant to sign a new deal with Manchester United, and his contract does expire in a couple of months. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But at the moment, it's looking a little bit, I would say 50-50 as to whether Omari Forson signs a new deal with Manchester United or not. Right, that's everything I've got planned for the show this morning. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do smash a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.